Jnānatimarandasya Jnānanjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Tava Karakamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Singham Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringham Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadishare Jaya Jagadishare Jaya Jagadishare. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Q&A session that we have every evening here as part of the Rishikesh Kirtan Fest. And I'll be happy to entertain questions tonight. And we're just looking for one person to start off the evening with a question. Yes.
Hi. The other day you were talking about different Advaitas. I just missed that part. You were talking about the Neo-Advaita and some other Advaitas. So if you don't mind to explain it again, I missed that. Thank you.
So there's a tradition of, there's a literary tradition of important books coming from the great sage Vyāsadeva. And the commentary on those books are the foundation of different lineages of what's called this Vedanta. And so what all Vedantins have in common is that they accept these texts as authoritative, that truth is found in them. In the three texts that are the foundation are the Upanishads, the Vedanta Sutra, or sometimes called Brahma Sutra, and the Bhagavad Gita. So all Vedantins agree that these texts are authoritative, but they have different interpretations of them. And traditionally over the course of the centuries, although there are different lineages, there's essentially two general ways that it's interpreted. One is called Advaita Vedānta, where they believe that knowledge is the highest platform, that through knowledge our ignorance is confronted or defeated, and that one can achieve a state of moksha, freedom, from the influence of the material realm, and realize that all along I am that Brahman, I am that one. There is no one, nothing but me, and they can exist in that state of moksha. Now the Bhakti Vedantins, we could say, the Vaishnava or Bhakti Vedantin lineages, are interpreting the same books but in a different way. And throughout the centuries, more or less, although there are nuances, subtle nuances to their different interpretations, but in general, their faith is that, and their interpretation is that the self is always an individual. I'm always me, you are always you, God is always God. There's an ontological difference between the self and God. There is a oneness, in the way that the sunlight is one with the sun. They're made of the same energy. They have the same qualities, but one is dependent on the other, right? And so the Bhaktivedantins say we are like that emanation, like a ray of God. We share God's qualities, eternality, knowledge, and bliss. But I'm always me, and God is always God, and you're always you. And He's not dependent on me, but I'm dependent on, my existence is dependent on that absolute truth. Like that. So these are the two schools as they've come down through the centuries. But in more modern times, there's a type of thought that some people call Neo-Vedanta, which will say either of these is fine. You can just pick the one that you are most inclined towards. But I would feel, and I believe the traditional representatives of these earlier lineages would say, well, now you have to explain that. You have to defend that. You have to write your commentaries on these books and explain how that makes sense. But I find it not entirely coherent. This is how I understand it. Particularly why Western people may be interested in it is because we may have an aversion to hearing that we're right and everybody else is wrong. We don't like. We may have been raised in traditions where that was the message. Not only that we're right and everybody's wrong, but we're right and everybody else is going to go to hell forever. No matter how insightful they are, no matter how well they live, no matter how well they embody the qualities of a deeply spiritual person, none of that matters. You have to get on the right side, and you're saved. And if you're on the wrong side, it doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. So I think we can swing the pendulum to the other side, that we're right and everybody's wrong, and you can swing it all the way over to everybody's right. And I believe that that's like there's a thesis and then there's an antithesis, and the deepest understanding is in the synthesis. That's recognizing that yes, truth is found in many. The same truth is found in so many different spiritual lineages or practices or traditions, but that doesn't mean that there's no gradation within the different paths. And what the Bhakti Vedantins have seen is that there's a similar type of evolution that you can see in practically all of these spiritual traditions. That it goes from approaching the divine for the things of this world, then realizing that the things of this world don't truly satisfy, and approaching the divine through renunciation, through turning away from the world and trying to find peace, and then ultimately finding an emptiness in that, and then ultimately connecting through love and seeing love as the highest principle. I say you can see that in Christianity, you can see that in Islam, you can see that even in Buddhism, you can see that certainly in the Vedic tradition, or in what people call Hinduism. You can see it in Native American faith and spiritual practices. You can see it all over, and it's not something that's sectarian. See, this is the thing. If you really try to understand this, sometimes there's a thesis and then there's an antithesis. You understand? You're familiar with this? They call it the dialectic model. Someone puts forward a proposition, right? We're right. Our religion is right and others are wrong. Then there's the antithesis, the exact opposite of that. No, everybody's right. There's truth in all of this. And then someone finds a synthesis. They take what's best from both of these and they find a higher truth that encompasses ideas from both. But sometimes when you say that language, the people that came to the antithesis, it sounds too much like the thesis. So once they hear that there's any kind of gradation, that they're opposed to that idea, any kind of hierarchy. But this hierarchy isn't sectarian. What the hierarchy says is there's an evolution, there's a growth, there's a path of growth. And it's in all the different traditions. And if I can learn to see that, then it's not sectarian, it actually breaks down sectarianism. Because what it means is, if I understand that divine love is the highest principle, then wherever I see it, I honor it. And if you were to ask a sectarian person, who's most evolved, who's closest to God, they'll say the people in my tradition. But if you ask someone that sees this kind of evolution or this gradation in all the different traditions, then they'll say, wherever I see divine love, that's the person that's most evolved. As a matter of fact, people in other traditions are more evolved than me, because even though they're in another tradition, they've evolved to this higher state of divine love. So if we really understand it, it breaks down sectarianism, and it lets us really look at the essence of each of our spiritual paths, and we can see, yeah, their path has the same gradation, same type of evolution. I see it everywhere. So I see that as a synthesis. Is that okay? All right, thank you. Nice question. Get us started. Yes, Boo. Behind you.
Hi, Krishna. One question about the Kali Yuga. So I just read that like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's not every time appearing in the Kali Yuga. And I was reading something that is like, he only appeared like 20 times in the Kali Yuga. But how is it with the cycles and everything? So is there like kind of an ending that the Kali Yuga is actually happening? Or is it like, you know what I mean? So every time the yugas, just like summer, like it's just a cycle. But I was reading that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, not every time appearing in the Kali Yuga. You're familiar, So my question is like, because I was reading something that he only appeared like 20 times only in all the Kali Yugas that will happen. So my question is like, is there like kind of an ending at some point of the Kali Yuga that it will never come back?
Well, there's a time scale, right? Everything's in cycles. So there's a time scale for the universe. It's very vast, very broad, but it's one day, or I'm sorry, it's one lifetime for Brahmā, right? And in that one lifetime for Brahmā, there'll be many yuga cycles, so many yuga cycles within that. So it'll go through the four many times in the life of Brahmā. And then the entire life of Brahmā, the entire life of the universe is one breath of Lord Viṣṇu. So I'm not familiar with the 20 times, but what we can understand is these cycles come and the universe goes through its destruction and then recreation. And then there's a whole nother set of cycles. So there's no end. There might be an end for one universal lifetime of Brahmā, that comes to an end, but then another one comes. So Sri Caitanya is eternal and his pastimes are eternal. So they'll always appear, somewhere, somehow. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, general question I would like to ask to you. I would like to know what is the relationship between Brahma, Viṣṇu, and Śiva, and with the three gunas, Sattvic, Rajas, and Tamas.
So there's many different types of avatāras. If we carefully go through all of the Vedic texts and the epics like Mahabharata and the Puranas, then we can begin to understand and categorize them all. And great sages have done this. So they begin with the avatari, the source of avatars, and that's Sri Krishna. This is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Ete changsa kala pungsa, Krishnastu Bhagavan Svayam. It lists all the different avatars, and then it says, but the origin of them is Svayam Bhagavan Sri Krishna, that they all come from him. Krishna is just, his interest is simply in being absorbed in his divine lila, his divine play, absorbed in adventures of love. But there's so many living beings that want to enter into the material, that have chosen to exist within the material realm. And that realm will need so much maintenance and care and direction, including creation, maintenance, and destruction. So there are different categories of avatars, right? The avatars of Lord Viṣṇu, Garbhodakshaya Viṣṇu, or Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya, and Śiva Viṣṇu are called the... Why does this keep slipping my mind? It's the second time it's slipping my mind. It's just that one term I need. Who can help me with the name of those avatars? They're... it's slipping my mind. But in any case, one channel of avatars, one category avatar. Purusha avatars, the Purusha avatars, is that Krishna manifests as Viṣṇu, the Mahavishnu. There's a big, you could say within the unlimited spiritual sky, there's one realm or one bubble of the material realm where the material laws are in effect. Karma, time, the guṇas. And Viṣṇu lies down within that realm and universes emanate from his body. So he becomes the soul of the entire material realm. Yeah, it's emanating from him, Viṣṇu. This is from Mahavishnu. Then all these universes come out of him and he enters into each universe. He becomes, just like the soul is like a living body. Every living body has a soul. And so the universe is a living body. And Viṣṇu is the soul of that universe, right? It's his consciousness that spreads throughout the universe. And then from him born is Lord Brahmā. Brahmā creates everything, all the species and the planets and everything, and all the living beings. And then Viṣṇu again enters for a third time within the heart of every living being and within every atom. So this is called Purusha avatar. It's one category of avatar. But then And there's Leela avatars. They come to play and do things, and the Shaktavesha avatar. There's different kind of avatars, but one category of avatar is called guṇa avatar. And so that means that this entire universe is made up essentially of three energies. Okay, sattva, rajas, tamas. It's kind of like if you had a video screen, and the kids are really getting to me a little bit today. I'm getting on both sides, but I'm sure they will. I'm sure that peace will come. Shanti, shanti, shanti. Thank you. So that's better. Thank you. So this universe is made up essentially of these three energies. It's kind of like when you have a video screen, and it's made up of so many thousands of pixels, but each pixel is one of three colors: red, blue, or green. And those three colors, they can combine and blend to create all of the different shapes and shades of color on the video screen. In a similar way, there are three energies, sattva, rajas, and tamas, that are blending to create all that is matter in our universe. And each one of those energies has a deva, or an avatar, that is, in a sense, in charge of that. So Brahmā is for the Rajaguna and creation. Viṣṇu is for the Sattva-guna, maintenance. And Śiva is for the Tamaguna and destruction. Now, just because he's in charge of, you could say, he takes charge of the destruction, right? And he's the avatar for that energy. But his own awareness is far beyond it. It's not like his awareness is colored by tamas, but he has a responsibility as being in charge of tamas, like that. So everything has person behind it. This is the message that we find through the Puranas, that whether it's the sun or the moon or the rain or the mountain or the river or the different energies, or whether it's more abstract things like learning, right? There's a goddess behind it, maintenance, there's Viṣṇu, there's Saraswati, there's always someone behind it. So the guṇa avatars take charge of the different, those three different energies. Different energies, yes. Thank you. Where are you from? Sorry? Italy. Nice to meet you. Okay, very nice. Okay. Oh, very nice, very nice. Okay, question, yes.
Hello, Hare Krishna. I'm for the first time in India, since 10 days maybe. I'm from Germany, and I was first 3 days in Govardhan, and Govardhan, 3 days, yes, and for 5 days in Vrindavan. And now, as you mentioned, that the three Purushas, the three avatars, Śiva, Viṣṇu, and Brahmā, they are avatars, but above them, the source is Krishna. And my question is, as I meet for the first time with this culture, how does it come that Krishna is not so present in this culture here in India? My impression is that the avatars, but not the source, are very present. And how does it come on the other side that in the West, in West Europe, for example, or in the US, the Krishna consciousness is so present? It's an irritation for me. It irritates me. Because here, in my opinion, this is the source here of the Veda. But Krishna is not that, does not play a big role, but the avatars are very high.
I'm not sure if I understand, but let's talk and we'll get on the same page. Because I don't know how you go to Vrindavan and you don't see Krishna as being prominent in India. You can't turn around and not see Krishna. Okay, in Vrindavan, you go to Delhi, go anywhere in Gujarat, all over Rajasthan, Bengal, Krishna you see everywhere. Yeah. I don't know. Have you been to South India? Is that where else have you been in India? Vrindavan? Well, that's all Krishna. So why don't you? You've traveled to the rest of India? Then why are you assuming that? I don't know if that's true. But I'll say this. In one sense, all of these energies are energies of Krishna, right? So like in the South, the worship of Viṣṇu is very popular, okay? Now, who is Viṣṇu? It's a manifestation of Krishna. If we want to understand the relationship between Krishna and Viṣṇu, it's something like this. It's the same person, but in one case, he's revealing his whole personality, and in the other case, he's revealing part of it. Sometimes there's an analogy used, and think about this and see if it clicks with you. They speak of, you take a judge, like a high court judge. What do you call a judge in Germany? Huh? Minister. Okay, I can't hear, but okay. But you have a judge. Now, when the judge is in the courtroom, he's manifesting his power and his influence, right? Everybody in America, everybody calls the judge by one term. They don't call him by his first name or his last name. They don't say Mr. whatever, but there's a term they use for the judge. What do they call the judge? Your Honor, right? In Germany, same. Okay. So Your Honor. So whenever they refer to him, it's with great respect, right? And he's got the power, and everybody knows that he's in control. And if someone begins to behave improperly, he can immediately, just by his words, he can take care of it. He's got that influence and power, right? So he appreciates the respect that's shown to him where he's doing this kind of business, where he's taking care of his responsibilities. But when he goes home, he's not taking care of responsibilities so much. And there he's not shown that same type of reverence or that same type of respect. When he walks in the door and his wife sees him, she doesn't say, Your Honor, right? She'll say, what do they say in Germany? What does a loving wife call her husband? In German? Okay. In America, they say sweetheart, honey, baby, babe, things like this. So it's a very intimate word that doesn't speak to his power, but speaks to the sweetness that she has in her heart for him. If she is in the courtroom, she won't call him sweetheart. She'll actually call him Your Honor, right? Because in that space, he's playing a role, right? But when he comes home, she's going to say, sweetheart, honey, come on in. And then the children are going to come on running up. They're not going to say, Your Honor. They're going to say, Daddy, right? And they're going to grab him. And they'll pull on him. Yeah, if anybody does that in the courtroom, you know, the guards are going to come up and take them away. But the children are pulling and demanding his attention. And although he's not being shown awe and reverence, which does he prefer? The reverence of the courtroom or the lack of it in the home? What do you think? Huh? In the home, right? Here he's showing more of himself. He's showing the people in the courtroom, even they work with him every day. They know him, but the wife knows so much more of him. He's shown so much more of himself to his wife. So Krishna is God at home. Viṣṇu is God in the workplace. You see? Viṣṇu is the one maintaining the universes, creating unlimited universes from his pores, entering into the heart of every living being, monitoring their thoughts and help directing them, kind of like arranging for the karma of every living being to be carried out. That's all, in a sense, outsourced, but it ultimately that is Krishna carrying all that out. as Viṣṇu. And when Viṣṇu is worshipped, he's worshipped with reverence. Right? He's worshipped with great Vedic hymns and so on. Krishna is God at home. Krishna is when he's known intimately. You see Krishna's little baby. Right? You see in the pictures. You don't see little baby Viṣṇu, right? But you may see Krishna, oh, look at him. He's got butter on his face and he's getting naughty. We love it. He's so sweet. Look at his little feet. You know, so there's an intimate love. Or Krishna dancing with all the girls, right? Or Krishna running with his cows and his friends. He can be loved with an intimacy. That's Krishna. Now, there's love of Krishna has always been there in India. It's always been there in these texts. But this may speak to your question a bit. Most of the texts that we read, whether it's the Vedas or the Upanishads or the Mahabharata or Puranas, usually the perspective is within this universe. We're looking at everything from within this universe. But to understand Krishna, only for a short time does Krishna enter within this. Viṣṇu's in the universe from the beginning to the end, right? Krishna just enters for a little bit of time. He's existing generally outside of this universe in Goloka Vrindavan, in the spiritual sky, way beyond, right? And when he enters into the universe, which is just for about 100 or so years, he brings that spiritual, he brings his Goloka Vrindavan, his place, into this world, and that's where you were visiting. Not everybody can see it, but those who have faith, they say that place is the spiritual world. Okay? So Krishna comes in, goes for about 100 years, goes back out. Viṣṇu's here for millennia and millennia. So when we think about God with the inside this universe vision, we see a lot more Viṣṇu than we see of Krishna. You understand? And therefore, like these old ancient temples in these sampradayas that go back many, many centuries, these lineages, they're worshiping Viṣṇu. And there's many important Viṣṇu temples, especially in South India. There's the Tirupati, and there's so many. Very famous and important temples. Now, all of that is beautiful bhakti. There's beautiful teachings and incredibly brilliant sages and philosophers are helping us understand bhakti through Viṣṇu bhakti. Krishna's there, but they were giving more emphasis to Viṣṇu. But especially about 500 years ago, there was another wave in the world of bhakti, where the reverence of the type of worship of God with reverence is respected, but they say there's something more. If you churn this still more, if you take bhakti and you put it in a churn and churn it until you get to the thicker essence, there's that intimate love, the way Krishna's loved. And so within these different lineages, they really began to say, this is a bit more secret. It's a bit more, because it's very esoteric. For instance, Krishna's love with these young girls. It's a very sensitive subject. It's a very beautiful type of love, but it's easily misunderstood. So it wasn't talked about so much. But within these different lineages, at the same time, they were all getting the similar inspiration that what pleases Krishna the most is the intimate love, like the judge at home. And so then there became a lot of songs about Krishna, a lot of teachings about Krishna, a lot of poetry about Krishna, that really, it was always there, but it became churned and became more popular about 500 years ago. It really was a big push. And the people that brought bhakti to the Western world were these Krishna bhaktas, right? It wasn't the older Viṣṇu lineages, but it was the Krishna bhaktas that took it out. And I believe it's a very appropriate type of faith for this age. And it's a very appropriate type of faith for the Western world, because in the Western world, we're tired of a picture of God as power, judgment, etc. Our hearts are more open to a sweet, loving, beautiful God that dances and plays the flute, and you can love him with intimacy. So that is catching on in the West. Krishna worship has always been here, but it became more influential. But about 500 years ago, that flavor of bhakti, that flavor of bhakti. But the fact is, Gujarat, huge state in India, all Krishna bhakti. It's all about Krishna bhakti, right? You go to Orissa, Jagannath, most popular deity, that's Krishna, right? Rajasthan, Radha Krishna, everybody's worshiping. UP, Radha Krishna, most popular, you know. So this Krishna worship is widespread. I don't know if 5% would be an appropriate, accurate representation. Yeah, people can say, but yeah. Does that help fill it out a bit for you, though? Yeah, think again. Yeah, this good example. Yes, yeah. And remember, this is if you begin to study these texts broadly, you'll see that generally they're always speaking from the perspective within this universe. And some of these texts will take us outside of this universe and we look down from another perspective. And we can better understand Krishna from that perspective. Okay. Yes, thank you. We have a couple questions. One all the way in the back. Thank you.
Namaste. I have this question, this esoteric part. You were talking about Krishna and these young girls. Would you like to throw some light more on it, please? Thank you.
It's said that we were just speaking about this. But if you took all the Vedic literature and churned it, then you'd get to the cream. If you took the cream and then you churned it still more, you get to the cream of the cream. In French, they say it like that, right? Crème de la crème. Cream of the cream. They say that is the text, the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay? It says it, Sharan, the cream of the cream. And within that text, which talks so much about bhakti, you could churn it still more and you get to the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is all of Krishna's pastimes. And then if you churn that still more, you get to the sweetest essence of it all. Of all of the Vedic literature, of all the hundreds of thousands of Vedic verses, it's when Krishna dances with the gopīs. What's expressed there and what's taught there is the essence of all spirituality. And so we have to be very careful when we approach the subject, because we tend to see it through the perspective of our own experience. And we say, oh, he's one boy, he's dancing with all these girls. He's being driven by lust. They're being driven by lust. But what we need to, if we're going to understand it, we need to hear it through the tradition that explains it, through the tradition that presents it. And there we find that these girls, these gopīs, if you took all the different yogis and sages, took all the Upanishad, all the great masters spoken about in the Vedas, all the sages that we hear from in the Upanishads, or if you go through all the Mahabharata and Puranas, great yogis, etc. These girls, who don't look like it, they look like very beautiful teenage girls. They're called the Yogeshwaris. They're the greatest yogis of all, because their consciousness is more focused and it is deep and on the deepest spiritual platform than any other sage. And what is their focus on? It's on Krishna. And Krishna is that Pada Brahman, that supreme absolute truth. So just like you might get an Upanishadic sage that's meditating on Brahman, these girls are meditating more intensely on the Pada Brahman. But it's a meditation that's out of love. Love is facilitating the intensity of their meditation. Their entire minds are absolutely riveted with love to Krishna. And it's not out of lust that they dance with him, but it's out of love. Within their hearts, there's nothing but the motive to please the object of their love, Krishna. And within Krishna's heart, there's nothing but the motive to please his beloveds, the gopis. So this is some type of meditation, type of awareness, type of highest consciousness in the context of divine love being portrayed in this dance. Now, someone may say, well, okay, that sounds nice, but still it doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem right that he's with so many young girls. One boy, so many young girls. What's not right is that we think we can enjoy the bodies and the people of this world because we didn't create them. And we do tend to act out of lust. We want something from someone more than we want to give to another. But Krishna, it's his own, by his own Shakti, by his own power that these girls manifest, right? Srimati Radharani is his own Hladini Shakti, his own potency. And from her expand the rest of the gopis. Their forms, their very existence is his energy. And he is also in the heart of every living being. He's as intimately connected with every being as can be. So if anybody has a right to dance with another, to embrace another, it's Sri Krishna. And he has that right with every living being. You know, he says, I can create a standard of dharma where you can marry a person and be intimate with them, but it should be limited because we tend to exploit, right? Krishna is not exploiting whatsoever. He gives of himself in his love, right? So it's beyond, it can't be called immoral. It's beyond the morality of this realm. But all these beings are transmoral. They're all existing in a realm where where our rules of morality have no play. There was the great Sufi poet, Rumi, thank you, who said, there is a field out beyond good and bad. You know, I will meet you there, right? Krishna has met the gopis there, right? The good and bad of this world are to regulate and try to rein in our lower tendencies. These are beings that have no such lower tendencies. Their awareness is entirely on the spiritual level. So this is, when we look at these, we can look at them. There's a charm in them and there's a beauty in them that we can appreciate. But if we're going to understand it, we need to understand it through the teachings of the sages, how they help us see who they are. Is that okay? Thank you very much. Very, very important question to ask. Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Coming back to the distinction between jnana yoga and bhakti yoga, do you think as somebody enters into samadhi that their personal belief either towards jnana or bhakti would influence the information or the experience they would have in that level, so that then their truth or their personal truth within that realm is some way connected or verified towards their own personal thoughts?
I'm not sure if I understand the question, so let's make sure we're on the same page. So you're saying someone may have a predisposition to practicing bhakti or practicing jnana yoga, and then they may enter into a state of samadhi. Generally, the state of samadhi is more often spoken about in relation to Ashtanga yoga, but the fact is, on any of these paths, you're talking about a state of trance. Okay, so on either of these paths, someone might enter into a state of trance. And your question was, does their predisposition color their experience? Is that? Okay. Well, you see, I'm going to explain this to you from the perspective of the bhakti yogis. Okay. That through Ashtanga yoga is the most common path to enter into samadhi. But let's say through jnana yoga, one achieves a state of awareness where they're in a state of trance, and the idea is that all the false information of the mind is dropped in that state. I'm not this body. I'm not this mind. All of the false conceptions that I had about myself have been revealed as illusion, and they're all let go. And now I'm existing in a state where I'm experiencing something of my own true nature, right? And that true nature, initially it has a lot to do with my own eternality. There's no fear anymore because I realize I am eternal. And all the stories that I had about myself, about my own limitations and frailties, they're meaningless now, right? So now that the way that the bhakti yogis look at it is that path can take you there. It can take you there, right? You'll feel a tremendous relief in that state of consciousness. Because who knows how many lifetimes we've been having a nagging fear clinging to life in our background, humming in the background, creating a sense of anxiety. What to speak of all the more straight up kind of suffering that we've experienced. So when you feel relief from that, it's a tremendous relief and peace that one feels. Now the bhakti yogis will say that those paths of yoga can take you there. But the only way that you can connect with love to the divine is through love. Right? Now that love includes this Brahman realization. What I described is, we can call that Brahman realization. It means I realize I'm not my body, I'm not my mind, I am Brahman, I'm eternal. All the false stories about myself are untrue. Those are temporary little blips in time. But I am Sat, I am eternal. Right? But what's experienced in divine love, that's only revealed to the one who has love. It's only revealed. Krishna says, Bhakti mam avijananti. You can only know me through bhakti. So it will take something unique or special for that Brahman realization to take you to bhakti, to go beyond that to the stage of bhakti. The stage of bhakti includes Brahman realization. It includes all of that clarity that I'm not my body, I'm not my mind, I'm not any of these things. But then there's something far more. So the bhakti philosophers like Rupa Goswami, and you will find in Bhagavatam many statements that will compare the experience of Brahman realization to like a drop. And the experience of, like say, a drop of ananda, a drop of bliss. And the experience of the bliss that bhakti gives as like an ocean. From the bhakti perspective, the Brahman realization is empty. It's empty of suffering, but it's also empty of love, and therefore it's empty. Does that make sense? Yes.
Sorry, I falsely thought that samadhi was a goal of each of the four paths, but obviously not just for Ashtanga. But I was more talking about the difference between Vedanta and Advaita Vedānta in terms of like bhakti and jnana yoga when understanding the relation with God. Do you think that is predispositioned once somebody reaches Brahman realization or love for God? Do you think that their faith or their belief in a lower state can influence the experience of the higher state?
It's not what takes one to bhakti is not exactly faith or belief, although those are within it. But it's the word that they use is lobha, which literally means like greed. Like, in other words, the intense desire for it. When one intensely desires the divine love or prema, it's only through that opens up the door to it. So, but where does that come from? Now, the bhakti yogis are saying it's in everyone, but it becomes awakened in the association of other Vaishnavas. And through the association of other Vaishnavas, one hears the glories of Krishna, and that awakens something in their heart, which drives them to say, I want more, right? Otherwise, that experience of Srimad Bhagavatam is going to reveal that even that moksha, it eventually, the emptiness of it eventually leaves one wanting something more, which will either lead you going back into the material realm or potentially, possibly, up into the realm of bhakti. But one has to have that strong desire to attain it. It has that desire has to awaken, right? That especially awakens through chanting this name and through hearing the glories of Krishna from someone who has deep understanding of it. And that spark awakens, and that'll take one beyond Brahman to Bhagavan realization or love for Bhagavan, prema. Yes.
I think she's also wondering if the type of realizations has influence of the type of on the different kind of samadhis. No?
So the word samādhi, so two words put together. Sama means even, and di refers to meditation or thoughts. So the most common way the word is used now is especially the way that it's presented in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, samādhi, as like a state of trance, a state where one has lost all awareness of all externals. But it can be understood in other ways as well. It could mean that I have an evenness of mind. In other words, I might not be in a state of trance exactly, but my thoughts and my actions may be fully absorbed in Krishna. Then we could call that samadhi. Or even a Krishna Bhakta could go into a state of trance in their meditation on Krishna's pastimes. So that's also a way. So, but Patanjali especially speaks about this. You know, his sutras are it's basically a manual to attain two different levels of samadhi, two different levels of trance in intensity. But a bhakti yogi, if he were to go into that type of trance, and they do, but it would be a trance where there's the pastimes of Krishna are playing in their awareness. It wouldn't be an emptiness, or it wouldn't be a focus on any random object, but it would be absorption in the name, qualities, form, or pastimes of Krishna, especially the pastimes. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. I have always wondered this part of Krishna when he was young, like a teenager, and some young ladies were taking a bath in the pond, and he starts teasing, taking away their clothes, and he sits on the.
Speak
Yeah.
into the mic, otherwise.
Okay. Did you hear what I said so far? No. Okay. So I have always wondered this part of Krishna when he was himself was a teenager or a young adult, when some girls were taking bath in the pond, and he suddenly goes and steal their clothes and sits on the tree and start teasing those girls. So was it? It was a divine love, some place? I don't get it. Can you please, on a lighter note? Thank you, my friend. I hope you heard my question clearly. Yeah. Thank you.
So what you're describing is shared in, I believe, the 22nd chapter of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna steals the clothes of the young gopi girls. Okay. Now, again, let me reiterate that what we're hearing now is not the type of story. It's not like a common story. This is the sage Vyāsadeva, the great sage, the great philosopher, who's written incredibly dense philosophical texts like the Upanishads or the Vedanta Sutra, who's provided dharmic texts like the Vedas. He's very well aware of Dharma. He's very well aware of Vedanta. He's very well aware of yoga. He's very well aware of ethics and morality. He has as everybody else gets theirs from his texts. And he's even been hesitant to share this in his texts. But eventually, Narada comes to him and says, you have to share this. You have to speak the beauty of Krishna's pastimes. You have to tell it all. Otherwise, people won't be able to develop this deeper love. So you need to share this. So he's, okay, I'll share it. He goes into meditation, sees it, and now he's going to share it. And so he's going to share something that, from the ethical perspective of this world, is unethical. But from the spiritual perspective, is the most special, rare pinnacle of divine love. Now, the girls of Vrindavan all love Krishna very deeply. They all share it. There's no envy. Like in this world, if all the girls loved one boy, they would be likely rivals of each other, and there'd be tension between them. These girls all love him with absolute purity. All they want is to please him. That's the churning within their hearts, and that pure desire. And again, it's a pure yogic desire. It's not an ordinary puppy love of this world kind of thing. They're holding hands, and with complete innocence, they go to the temple of Durga, Katyayani, and for 1 month they've taken a vow. They're eating the simplest of foods. They're worshiping Katyayani and bathing in the cold river for a whole month. What's their motive? What's their goal? What is it that they want to achieve by this austerity? They want Krishna as their husband, right? Why do they want Krishna as their husband? Because that would give them the best opportunity to serve. So this is some entirely pure yogic desire. And they do their worship with their hearts full of love for him. They go into, then they bathe. Part of the ritual is then afterward you bathe in the river. So Krishna comes at that time, and he comes to fulfill their desire, right? They had a desire. We want Krishna as our husband. Now in this culture, a young lady is going to expose herself in front of only one man. Who? Her husband, right? So what he does is he takes their clothes. When they're bathing, he sneakily takes their clothes, climbs up onto a branch of a tree, and when they're ready to come out of the water, they see where our clothes. They look up. Oh, it's Krishna. Now we take it to the level what's called rasa. Okay, rasa. It means when you get into the more esoteric teachings of Vedanta, they speak about something called rasa, which means there are subtle blends and flavors of varieties of love. And you can see them play out in Krishna's Leela. These are the highest states of yogic consciousness, and they're not. It's a topic that requires great masters to analyze and explain. But what these girls feel in their hearts when Krishna says, "Please come out of the water and I'll give you your clothes back." There's many subtle things that are churning in their hearts that are giving them an experience of bliss beyond anything that you could ever find in this material world. It's a common, just like a chef, a real chef knows how to blend spices and flavors to create some unique flavor like you've never had before. So what Krishna is churning in their hearts through this act is a blend of embarrassment, a blend of being forced into a realm that they want to go to but are afraid to enter, to cross into. Right? They want to be all Krishnas, but they can't. They're being held back because they're young girls and they're not meant to. The whole society will rebel against this. So Krishna is forcing the issue. You want to be my wife. You want to love me and serve me with love. The way that you love me, I love you. And Krishna has the power to reciprocate. The form of Krishna has a name that no other avatar has. Akila Rasamrita Murti. It's the one form that can reciprocate with all varieties and unlimited rasas. Right? He can love you like a friend. He can love you like a child loves a parent. You can love him like a parent loves a child. You can love him like a master. You can love him like an intimate lover. And he can reciprocate with unlimited people's desire to love him in unlimited different ways. So he's reciprocating with the love that a young girl has for a young boy in the context of divinity. And he's pushing them into, through this action, he's churning those feelings more deeply. Really, if you can look at all of Krishna's Leelas, and you can question what's going on with this mythology here, right? Why is he lifting this mountain? You've all seen pictures of Krishna lifting the mountain, right? Holding it up in the air. Sometimes Krishna is dancing on the hoods of one snake, but it's got many heads. Why is he doing that, right? He's doing all these different things. If you want to know why, if you really want, there may be more superficial reasons. Often Krishna accomplishes many things with one action. But if you want to know the deepest reason and the real reason why is he lifting the hill? Why is he dancing with these girls? Why did he steal their clothes? Why is he fighting with this snake? The answer is always going to be the same. Would you like to know what that answer is? This is a secret. It's a key to understanding Krishna's Leelas. The reason is always to intensify the feelings of love. That's why he lifts the hill. It intensifies the feelings of love. That's why he fights with the snake. That's why he steals the clothes of the gopīs. Everything that he's doing is to create, just like if someone wants to write a screenplay, like a movie script, then what they do is they write about the main character. Like generally the movie opens up and you see the main character, the protagonist. And the protagonist will do something that makes you feel a little bit of sympathy or connection, identification with them. And then they create circumstances. Usually the circumstances, they create trouble. There's some great challenge. And then they create more challenges and more challenges. And those challenges are intensifying the circumstances. And it makes you feel more intensely, right? What you feel already, it makes you feel it more intensely. Krishna's Leelas, Krishna's pastimes, all of these things that are happening, they're all happening so that the love that Krishna feels for the devotee and the devotee feels for Krishna is experienced with greater intensity. When he takes those clothes, it's not immoral. He's already inside their hearts, fully. He knows them and knows their hearts more intimately than any other living being could possibly ever do. And he has complete selflessness in it. He's motivated only by the purity of love, and he has the capacity to perfectly reciprocate with each and every one of them. This isn't immorality. But by doing it, he's increasing and intensifying the feelings that they feel in their heart. And they're overwhelming. It's a bliss that we can't imagine that they're feeling, right? And it's moving their love into the next, taking it to the next level. That's what's happening. And again, this is all yoga. This is all a state of awareness beyond the material realm. But it's yoga in its most beautiful. It's most beautiful and complete manifestation. We were speaking earlier about the Brahman realization, and I mentioned earlier, Narada told Vyāsadeva, you need to share this information. And when he's telling him this, he says that this Brahman realization, this freedom without the beauty of divine love, he says this nashobate, it has no beauty, it has no glory, it's kind of empty. Whereas the deepest Brahman realization, the ultimate Padam realization, is full of blends and mixtures and waves of all different kind of varieties of feelings, subtle feelings, intensified feelings, beautiful blends of feelings of divine love. Is that okay? Thank you. Yes. This is good. We got questions.
So how does the chanting of japa, like over time, develop and reveal itself more? Maybe in your own experience, if you want to share.
Ultimately, it's revealed by Krishna's grace. But we play our own role in the practice of that, right? our practice should deepen. In the beginning, we do things out of duty. Why am I chanting these rounds? Because I've taken a vow that I'm going to chant 16 rounds every day. I may not have a taste for it. I may not feel compelled to do it, but I'm doing it because it's my duty, right? And then we're given knowledge. Okay, I know something about this holy name. I know that it's non-different from Krishna. I know that if it's chanted purely, it has the power to completely transform my awareness and purify my mind and heart. I know this is true, right? But can that knowledge deepen to a deeper state of realization, right? Now, in order to get there, we have to think about when one is initiated into this lineage, they're given the mantra, they're given a set of beads, they're given a new name, a new identity in a sense, right? Now you are Krishna's devotee. So it's Kaustuba Das, right? That's my name, Das, his attitude, servant, right? So it's like, here's the beads. This will help you meditate. Here's the mantra. This is the object of the meditation. The mantra is non-different from Sri Krishna, Radha and Krishna, right? Now meditate on it deeply. But in the ceremony where this takes place and the name is given and the mantra is given, most commonly the guru will speak about what's called the avatāras, the different misconceptions or misbehavior that will break the flow, you could say, right? If this name is coming to us like an electric current, we want it to flow directly without any obstruction. So these 10 avatāras, literally means anti-devotion, kind of like, so these considerations these instructions are given to the disciple. How to conceive of the holy name, how to conceive of the other Vaishnavas and other people in your life, how to understand the Vedic scriptures and have proper faith in them, how not to misunderstand what this chanting is all about, etc., etc. There's a whole list. How to understand the directions of the guru in terms of the chanting. All of these become important, how one follows them. Now, within our lineage, it's said that there's one verse that one should wear around their neck and keep close to them at all the time. One verse that said that this verse is the Siddha Pranali. It is the path to perfection. One verse. Would you like to hear that verse? Anybody else want to hear it? Because I could just tell her. Trinadapi sunichena taror iva suhishnena amanena manadena kirtanaya sadahari. Have you heard this before? No. Okay. This was a verse spoken by Sri Caitanya himself. Trinadapi sunichena. One should be more humble than a blade of grass. More humble than a blade. You can step all over the blade of grass. The grass is not complaining. We often want to be honored. We want to be the center of attention. We want to get our due respect. We want everybody to recognize and validate our contribution. Why is it not being recognized? This is really bothering me that I'm not being recognized as I should be. No, more humble than a blade of grass. More tolerant than a tree. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of that. When is this going to change? I can't take this anymore. Right? No. More tolerant than a tree. How much mental bandwidth do we waste because we're not humble and we're not tolerant? How much do we complain? Right? Real yogi is not complaining. Right? I had a friend that once came up with this idea. You take like a rubber band and you put it around one wrist. And every time you complain, you move it from that wrist and you put it on the other wrist. Right? And see if you can go one whole day without complaining. Right? See if you can do that. Oh, the time that we waste, the bandwidth, the energy that we waste. Just complaining and being upset about this. The yogi lets go of all that stuff. It's petty. It's unimportant. It's slowing me down. It's just extra baggage that I'm carrying trying to reach my goal. I don't need any of that. Amanena manadena. offering all respects to every living being. Respect every living being. Because I see the soul in them and I see God in them as well. Right? I'm showing respect to everyone. And respect for myself, it's okay. I don't need some honor. I don't need the Nobel Prize. Right? I'm okay. Right? I'm okay because I know what I am within. Right? So if I'm more tolerant than a tree, more humble than a blade of grass, offering respect to every living being and demanding no respect for myself, my mind is going to be clear. Right? All of this petty stuff that's weighing me down, I've let it all go. Kirtaniya Sadahari. In this state of mind, one can always be absorbed in chanting these names. Right? Always absorbed. Otherwise, I would be distracted, pulled away from it. My mind's going to get mental loops that prevent me from entering in. Right? So we're given the mantra, but with that, we're given the shiksha. You see, that's why it's said that if you receive the mantra, that the mantra must be received in the sampradaya, in the lineage. Otherwise, it has no effect. This is Shastra says, right? Purana say. Now, how do we understand that? I believe one way to understand that is because it's the guru in the lineage that gives you the mantra, but he's not just giving just the mantra. It's not just the syllables. If we chant these syllables, they can be empty. Right? One great sage said it's like a capsule. A capsule can have medicine in it, right? Or it could be empty, right? So the syllables themselves are like the capsule, but it's the feeling inside, right? That is the name, right? And so when we chant this name, he says the name descends from the spiritual realm, the mantra. It enters into the ear, and then it's meant to go to the heart. And it exists there and lives there in the heart of the devotee. And when the devotee chants that name, it's not just happening here. It's coming up from the heart. And then it comes through the mouth and vibrates into the environment, right? So that's what the chanting has to be like. In order to have that heart that accepts the name and that can generate the name, not just the syllables, but the actual presence of God, the presence of Krishna, then one needs to learn how to live. One needs to learn how to respect everyone. One needs to let go of everything petty. And the Guru is giving that through their instruction. So when you receive the name, you're receiving it with the instructions of how to chant the name. And this is how one advances, right? It means a serious commitment, right? Serious commitment. I'm done, right? All that I hear about truth, it's just theoretical knowledge until I decide that I'm going to reflect on it so deeply and choose to live by it, that I begin to see the world through it. You understand? I might hear I'm not my body. I might hear that every living being is a spark of spiritual energy, equal. That's theoretical knowledge. But I may not see the world through that knowledge at every moment. Jnana chakshusa, Krishna calls it, the eyes of knowledge. But if I reflect on that knowledge steadily as I go through life, and I pray, and I make it my goal, then that knowledge can mature to a level that we could call wisdom, right? Where it's actually grown and become imbibed in me, become part of me. So I'm always seeing through it. And when you achieve that wisdom platform, they call it in Sanskrit, there's jnana, which is knowledge, vijnana, realized knowledge, right? Jnana chakshusa, seeing the world through this knowledge. When you come to that level, you're so free, right? You're all the mental loops that everybody else is going through over insignificant, petty stuff. You've seen it now from a higher perspective. What someone sees like a big deal, someone at work said something unfair about me, and it's going to play in my mind for weeks. You're seeing it from the perspective of eternity. That's the tiniest little blip in existence. It's meaningless, right? It's so easy to let it go. Someone does, I forgive them. You're forgiven, right? You didn't even apologize. It doesn't matter. You're forgiven. I'm not hanging on to that stuff because I got something more important in life. I got this mantra to connect with, and I need a mind free of all of that clutter in order to be fully absorbed. Now, when you reach that wisdom stage, that opens you up to something else, and that's called absorption. right? Absorption. Now, and only now, do I have the power to focus my mind with intensity. You know, sometimes by the power of this music, when the mind can become absorbed. That's why Kirtan is so powerful, right? But we want to also live the life of a bhakti yogi so that we can be absorbed. Kirtanya sadahari, all the time, have the mind absorbed in the name. And that's going to require achieving the state of absorption, right? And coming to that state of wisdom, I'm seeing the soul in every living being. I feel respect. Any insult that comes my way, it rolls right off me. It's like nothing. Now I can absorb and I can achieve this unwavering meditative focus. When I sit down to chant the name, unwavering meditative focus. Now my mind is absorbed, right? If you take a sponge and you just sprinkle a little water on it, it doesn't become absorbed. It's got to go into the water and go deep into the water, and then it'll suck up, it'll be completely full of water. We need to have a mind like that gets full of the holy name. Not just we sprinkle a little bit and most of it bounces off, right? The great sages of South India, they call this meditation, they compared it with something they call the Dhruv Anusmriti. Smriti means meditation. Dhruv Anusmriti means this steady, thick meditation. They said it's like pouring oil, right? When you pour water on top of something, it kind of splashes and goes all. When you pour oil and you just see the oil just go thick and cover something, it's completely covered. The meditation on the name needs to be like that. So how do we get there? It's following all these instructions. It's not just some pointers of how to chant more. Pointers may be helpful, they may not be. But far more important is how we live, how we let go, how we see the sacred. If I can see the sacred in every living being, I'm going to be much more prepared to see the sacred in the holy name. Right? This is when spirituality matures. Right? This is how it matures. Right? Just like we were speaking about this some weeks ago too. When someone does the puja, we're talking about chanting. That's one of the important limbs of bhakti. Another important limb is the deity worship in the temple. Right? What's going on there? Right? Do I see God in the temple? That's good. But by doing this practice of making an offering to God in the temple, the meditation that's involved in that, it's meant to give me the power to see God outside of the temple as well. It's meant to give me the power to see God within the heart of every living being, to see God in the sun, to see God in the moon, to see God in the fire, to see God in myself, and to see God in every living being. That otherwise, it's relatively empty thing going on. And we see this, right? You go to a temple and the guy's like, hey, give some money. You can see sometimes that's more there. And we can be sympathetic. Life isn't easy. But the real yogis, you know, their faith is such that they're doing this with love and they're seeing God in every living being. That's the instructions of Srimad Bhagavatam. You know, what is the neophyte devotee? The beginner, the hardly a bhakta yet. Hardly bhakti yogi. Archiyam eva hariye, pujam ye shraddhayate. They enter the temple, they say, I see God in the temple, and with faith, I do some puja. Natad bhakteshu chanyeshu, but they don't see God in the bhaktas, in the other devotees, or the other people. Sabhakta prakrita smrita. This is a prakrita bhakta, a materialistic bhakta. Their vision is not hardly spiritual. I can see Krishna when I see that form with the flute and bending like that, but I can't see him anywhere else. It's very shallow. One has to rise off that platform as quickly as possible. One has to focus and understand that this is just a beginner stage. We could be, but the way this world works is many of us will be stuck there for a long, long time. Right? If we have examples of great Vaishnavas, advanced Vaishnavas who are operating on a higher level, it gives us something. It awakens something in us. Through that example, through their words, through their behavior, I need to be like that. That's what bhakti is. Right? Not just the superficial, external part, but that deeper, internal part and that spiritual vision. Then Krishna says, for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost to them and they are never lost to me. Now you got the real connection. Now you got bhakti, for real, deep. Whole nother thing. Right? Thank you very much. We might have time for one more question tonight. Anybody want to ask one last one? Oh, well, if you want to, yeah, please.
Well, hey, thank you. You know I never miss a chance. Well, I was going to ask a little bit about Vyāsadeva, if you don't mind, and how he was the one who compiled all the Vedic texts. Was it about 5,000 years ago? And you said it came from a source, and I believe that name started with an N. If you could elaborate on where those Vedic texts were compiled from, and where Vyāsadeva, the origin of all of that material that he wrote down, I would certainly appreciate it.
So let's approach it like this. We're under this tent right now, right? It's a relatively small area of space. We could even shrink it down smaller if we want to, but let's just say with this tent. Now, within this tent, there's a body of knowledge that we can't see with our eyes. It's floating through the air, right? And with the proper technology, one can tap into it and download it, right? Everything that's on YouTube, every bit. Does anyone know how many megabytes, terabytes, whatever bytes are on YouTube? I have no idea. You want to Google that one up? See, some astounding amount of information. It's all right here. Every drop of it, every bit of it is sitting under this tent with us right now. It's floating in the air. We can't see it. You just need the right technology to tap into it. Yes? There's no word for it. Okay. So the tradition, this Vedic tradition, says that there is a body of knowledge called the Veda. Okay, the Veda. It's the most generic term. It just means the knowledge. That they say that this world is not a random happening. It is not just an explosion of dust in space. It is of an incredibly well-designed apparatus, the universe that we're in. An apparatus more finely tuned and more complex than anything that we could possibly imagine. And like every piece of sophisticated apparatus, it comes with a manual. What it's all about, how it's meant to be used, how you relate to it, how you use it. So similarly, this universe comes with a manual called the Veda. It's not written down, it's floating in the air. Right? And the right kind of, a qualified person can tap into it, like that. Qualified person can tap into it. We are mostly not tapped in. We are mostly operating with a relatively shallow field of perception and understanding. Like that. Certain yogis develop powers to read someone else's mind, right? Make something appear in your hand. They know how to manipulate the material energy because they've gone deep into meditation on it. They've seen things that others haven't seen. So some yogis can see that knowledge, they can perceive it, and in a sense they can download it for us. So that's always been there. The body of knowledge has always been there, and there's always been yogis that can tap into it. And the way that they would share it and spread it for so many millennia was through recitation, through oral recitation. That you could maintain and preserve that knowledge through chanting the Vedic mantras. So they're composed poetically. They're chanted with certain intonations that serve as mnemonic devices. They're even chanted with certain bodily movements that help serve as mnemonic devices. Most important, perhaps, is that they're chanted in a group, and you do it every day. So when you chant as a group every day, if one person in the group makes a mistake, it's quickly corrected and the knowledge is preserved. And like this group chanting handed down, it was a sophisticated way of not having the telephone game where it goes from one person and keeps changing. No, there's a great attention by brilliant people with clearer minds than ourselves. There was no television, there was no movies, they had minds that were far more clear and focused, and they were handing down this knowledge over the centuries, throughout the centuries. But then when Kali Yuga came, at the dawn of Kali Yuga, it says Manda Sumanda Matiyo Manda Bhagya Upadrutaha. In this age, people will be misguided, unlucky, live short lifetimes. Most importantly, their minds will always be disturbed have very short memories. So it's saying at this time, which was roughly 5,000 years ago, the sage Vyāsadeva was entrusted with the responsibility to not only tap into the Veda and download its knowledge, but also to kind of edit it, to categorize it and present it in a way that would be systematic and easy enough to understand, and to preserve it in written form. So there, and then that rolled out in a series that begins with the Karma Kanda, the Vedas, the Jnana Kanda, which is the Upanishads, and then the Bhakti Kanda, which really rises out in Bhagavad Gita and Puranas, and particularly Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Purana. So that's the history of how these texts have unfolded. Is that okay? Important. Every yogi, every Vedantin, they should know this. This is important. They should know the sage and understand how he presented his works. All right. Everyone, it has been a joy spending this evening with you tonight. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Very kind. Please join us, Charu, tomorrow morning. Charu will be giving the most masterful asana and meditation teacher. Yogi Charu will be teaching at 8 a.m. tomorrow in the hall. At 9 a.m. from 9 to 10, I'll be teaching more talk on Vedanta. If you would like to tap into any of these talks that we've had, question and answer, or any of those talks, they're all being recorded. There's about 60 or more, something like that. Gabriella here will connect you with that. Something else. I have a podcast if anybody's interested in it. There's over 1,700 episodes called Wisdom of the Sages. Find it wherever you find podcasts. If you want to learn more about this, our friend Adikarta is here. He's always wandering around and he's a wealth of Vedic knowledge. He's a man that he can spend time. If you come here any time of the day, he's hanging out and you can talk to him. And there's wonderful prasadam and more kirtan tonight. Please take part. Thank you all so much. It's been wonderful spending this evening with you. We're back tomorrow night too.